To Kevin Ogutu, good morning. How bad is the situation as we speak?
Well, a very good morning, Brenda. And as you put it, the situation is bad, and it's pretty bad. Remember, Lake Victoria is a shared resource among the East African countries. And this problem is being experienced in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and other the three countries, rather, that share this natural resource. Remember, the highest water level ever recorded in Lake Victoria was 13.41 meters, and that was in 1964. And then after that, now we had the most recent highest recording is 12.9 meters, and that was in February. The current recording, as according to the latest statistics that I got, Brenda, is that the highest level of Lake Victoria waters stands at 12.88 meters. So this means that whatever problem the residents of Nyando and other parts of Nyanza region are facing is something that is also being replicated in other parts of the three East African countries that share Lake Victoria. So how did we get here? The reason, one of the major reasons as to why we have this particular problem is because of the heavy rains that have been there. Remember, over 1,000 people are now homeless. They've been forced to integrate with other family members. This means that now the resources have been strained really to a very large extent. Some of the pit latrines have been submerged, posing serious health risks. So the problem is pretty grave. But the land is there, but now getting the resources is the problem. One of the things that came out when we interviewed the residents was that we need land where we can we can be sure that we won't be facing such kind of challenges. But that is something that only the national government and the county governments can do, and we are yet to get feedback on that. And talking about the broad issue that is the rising levels of Lake Victoria, one thing that has been pointed out as a possible short-term solution to this is dredging of Lake Victoria. Remember, this is a very expensive process. In 2019, that's last year in January, AU High Representative for Infrastructure, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, launched a dredger right here at the Kisumu port. This was a dredger that came from Uganda, owned by the Mango Tree Group, and it was supposed to dredge the waterways connecting Homa Bay, Mbita Paya, Asembo Bay, and Mfangano Paya, and it was supposed to be 6 meters deep and about 80 meters wide. That channel that will allow the various vessels plying the different bays and routes to get to Kisumu port and back. And this was something that was supposed to happen and was supposed to cost about 500 million Kenya shillings. So remember, this is just about dredging of a channel. So you can talk about dredging an expansive area, especially those areas surrounding the point where the Nyando River pours its water into Lake Victoria. So it remains a very expensive process in as much as this is the only feasible short-term solution that we can talk about, this being what some of the experts are suggesting. And this is something that has been in the pipeline, but unfortunately, even for this dredging of this waterway that's supposed to connect various bays, the Asembo Bay, Muhuru Bay, and all that, it has not yet started off, and this particular dredger is lying idle right here at the Kisumu port. One of the reasons why we have low, the reason why we have shallow, Lake Victoria has become shallower over the years is because of the siltation. And apart from that, one of the experts I spoke with mentioned the water hyacinth, which is being ignored. These water hyacinth, which comes in quite large numbers, once they are done with their cycle, they die and then they go down and then they form part of the sediments that makes Lake Victoria shallow. So as it stands right now, the solution to this, the short term, is dredging, but we are also hoping that to avoid the question of siltation, we can have proper farming practices uphill, because most of the rivers that drain their water into Lake Victoria come with really a lot of soil, rocks, and other materials that contribute to the shallowing of Lake Victoria. And this, by the end of the day, we have now a shallower lake that create this backflow that in turn displaces the several villages that surround Lake Victoria. There's also the question of the encroachment of human population into areas that are supposed to be left for what they calling breathers of the lake. We've been so keen on developing properties in every other available place, and this has contributed largely to the problem that we have. Remember, some of these establishments, like when you walk around the Dunga area, you find buildings, flats, quite near the lake. So experts are also saying that we also need to review some of these policies. We don't need to build everywhere. Yeah.
All right, Kevin Ogutu, sorry for cutting you short, but when you talk about the number of families that have been affected, there is a concern about waterborne diseases. So what is the county government doing, or, you know, the precautionary measures that have been put in place?
Well, from what we got from Judy Ruto, who is the MOH, Nyando sub-county, one of the health challenges, the risks, as we face this new phenomenon of flooding, is malaria. Remember, when this water comes, it gets into some of these shallow ends, then the mosquitoes get the opportunity to breed pretty fast. So they are moving in very fast to ensure that they have enough supply of anti-malarial drugs. And from the story that we did at, say, Kadhiambo Dispensary, the chief officer in the Department of Health in the county government of Kisumu, together with the MOH, Judy Ruto, were there to distribute the drugs to the several families displaced and the households, so to speak, together with the net, so that they can take care of the malaria. Apart from that, the other challenge is the waterborne diseases, which is also a serious concern when we are talking about flooding. Because remember, some of these areas, some of these neighborhoods had pit latrines. And then when the water comes here, then all the contents that were in the pit get exposed, and this is a very serious risk, particularly waterborne diseases. Remember, somehow this same water will get into the systems of the same residents. So when you talk about health risks, this is what the county is doing, but it is a very serious matter. Remember, even if the water levels go down, they are not very sure, because this is something that is pretty seasonal.
All right,
it comes Kevin, in the evening, yes.
All right, Kevin Ogutu, and finally from me, probably give us a breakdown of how many families have been affected, and probably the ones that have been affected, where are they seeking refuge?
Well, there have been about 350 households affected in Nyando sub-county only. Remember, this is a problem that is also being experienced in other parts of the Nyanza region. This translates to over 1,200 individuals who are now homeless. So the solution they've had to this is to integrate with other families. That means that if, for instance, I have been displaced, then I have to move into your house together with my family, or you create a space for me if at all you are living in a rest place. So this is how they are coping with it. Remember, most of the schools that were being used as evacuation centers are now being used for learning. So they cannot go there. The searches, some of them have been submerged. There's also just one dispensary that is being used as an evacuation center. We managed to see that. So that is the situation as it is, and that is how the residents so affected are trying to cope with the problem.
All right. Thank you so much, Kevin Ogutu, for that detailed report of the Lake Victoria backflow of water affecting several families. And now to